Hello everyone and welcome to Forever Rugby and Super Rugby / Curry Cup, but domestic rugby is back tonight in fact, and as promised before the first official match, which is the Lions versus the Sharks, bringing you 5 future Springboks that could go on to play for higher levels, 5 youngsters to watch from the main unions, that being the Lions, Bulls, Stormers, Sharks and Cheetahs. So yeah, just while you watch, and obviously we're gonna just focus on having rugby back and being competitive and supporting our favorite team. Basically, if you should be supporting the Lions, that's who I'm backing. It's my boys, and hopefully you're backing too. In fact, jump in the comments right now. Let me know who you are backing this weekend. Who is your team? What do you really think you're gonna finish? What can you predict for the tournament that is to come? Really, because it's going to be interesting to see how all the teams manage to adapt to being back to competitive rugby, and so many players to watch. With a lot of injuries, a lot of players overseas, this is like the new era. And if we're going to have players playing overseas next year, in terms of players going to North and players being based in South Africa for the long-term future, these are some of the players we need to get used to watching. If you're going to watch, hopefully, a Bulls versus Scarlets game next year, or a, Leinster Lions, these are some of the players they're going to be playing. And so I thought I'd look at, 5 youngsters which are really worth keeping your eye on during the Super Rugby and Curry Cup, because they're exciting players, and they're all sort of below the age 25. There's no point for me going and finding like the best 19-year-olds right now, because as I was saying in my last video, especially as a rugby player, when you are 19, 20 years old, you need time to develop into this level. You need time to solidify yourself within your age level before you can make the step up. You have these 19-year-olds being thrust onto the season playing against test match players who've been playing test match rugby for 10 years, and a lot of the time they get injured, a lot of time they can't make the step up, and their confidence gets shot, and they start thinking that they're not good enough to be at the level, whereas they're just not quite ready, and sometimes some of them take a little longer to be physically developed, etc. So now I look at 5 different players, one from each union. Obviously there are a lot more youngsters that are worth mentioning. The likes of Salman Murat. There's a nice young hooker at the Bulls at the moment. There are a couple of good, very, very nice young wings, but these are just the couple of players that I picked out. You'll recognize most of them. And it's just, I just thought I'd look at the players which personally I'm going to keep my eye out for every team in terms of, can they make the step up? Will they be playing for higher longs? Can they make that late push for a spot in the Springbok squad? If not now, looking towards the next World Cup, The oldest of these players is 23 years old. So, these are all players who are going to be in their prime come 2023 in the next World Cup. So that's kind of where we're looking at, the next World Cup. Who are going to try and defend that Webb Ellis trophy? Which players are going to be in that squad? And we're going to start off with the Sharks, and it's quite simple. He's been phenomenal this year, and that is Sanele Nohamba. At just 21 years old, he is playing with a confidence and a swagger beyond his years. And a year ago, Herschel Yankees was just stealing every single headline, and he was this. That's the future. That's the FAF replacement sorted. You're going to FAF de Klerk and Herschel Yankees, 2 exciting running scrum halves that are nippy, quick, and have really nice service, and play a very nice, attractive brand of rugby. Along comes Nohamba this year, and he looked brilliant in the Super Rugby, and even now in the last few matches, he looked really, really good, and he's going to look to kick on because he's 22 in January, and he is definitely a player who I think could force his way into the Springbok squad for the Lions. If he keeps playing the way he is, he becomes very difficult to ignore. He's tenacious. He's got a good boot on him. He used to kick the poles at school. So, he's quite a versatile player, and he's just brimming with confidence. And, he is quite small, but he's just a classic scrum half that you like. And as a Lions fan, I would love to see him at my union. And Sharks fans are really excited by him, and rightly so, because he's such a fantastic talent. And I think probably out of the youngsters, he's probably one of the most exciting to watch because, it's just, he's playing so nice, and he's so easy on the eye, he makes it look very natural, he gets a quick ball from the base of the ruck, he can get a backline going, and paired with the right fly half, could definitely become test match quality. Look, it is his first season, it's his breakthrough season, so sometimes players do, and they come and they have these really good first seasons, and then they struggle to find that consistency in the following season. So he needs to obviously prove a little bit more consistency, just in terms of long term, being able to show that he can continue doing it. That this is not just a wild, really good patch of form, rich vein of form, but it's that's his ability. You talk about form is temporary, class is permanent. We've seen how good his form is. Can he prove that is actually just his class, and that he will consistently perform at that level? But I'm really excited about him, and I think he's a big player the Lions need to shut down tonight if they are to do the business against the Sharks. Speaking of the Lions, Gianni Lombard, and another very exciting player and a nice versatile player. He's 22 years old, turns 23 in January, and he looked really good last season at just 21 years old. And he looked like a player who was ready for Super Rugby. He had some very nice performances, especially when the Lions went on tour, and then had an injury, and we haven't seen him. But he's back from injury, and he's looking very sharp. And I think his class was recognized in the fact that he was invited to go and play in the Springbok showdown and started the match at fullback and looked very, very good. He's a player that covers both fly half and fullback. I think the Lions will try to sort of. He's the Alton Yankees successor. 22 years old is the right sort of age. When Alton moves on for whatever reason, if he goes overseas, if he retires, he will hand the reins straight to Gianni Lombard. And he, watching for the SA under-20s, you could just see he was on a whole completely different level. And that's why I love watching that under-20 championship, because you can just see some good players, and you can see players who will probably make it. They'll probably take the step up to Currie Cup. They'll probably make the step up to Super Rugby. And then you see players and you think this player is going to be, that's a Springbok right there. You saw it with Jan Serfontein was like that at that sort of level. William Small-Smith was supposedly like that. Damian Willems is one. Andre Pollard. There are just certain players, when you watch them play, you think that's a Springbok right there. They will play Springbok rugby, providing that nothing goes wrong. And Lombard looked like that. He looked like a different level when he played junior Springboks, and he looked as comfortable in Super Rugby. He plays a lot of flair. He's very attacking, and he's brimming with confidence. He's a very nice kicker of the ball, and I think for somebody of that age to be so confident, I think that's why he's managed to make the step up, because he really does back his ability. He backs himself pace-wise, he backs himself on the counter-attack, and he's very exciting. And I think the Lions will mostly use him at fullback, and will sort of look to maybe sort of, and what we've even seen. And it won't work sort of long term, but it's an interesting option later in the game, especially if you are chasing a game. Is you've sometimes seen him at fly half, and you move Alton Yankees to inside centre, and you have just an attacking nightmare where you just got players who can play off each other, just trying to penetrate any sort of gap, which is especially good against a tiring team and quite a big team. When you think of teams like the Stormers with big packs, who might not be as mobile. When it gets to sort of the last 10 minutes, especially at altitude, and you suddenly have Gianni Lombard, Alton Yankees, picking gaps, putting people through, the likes of Wandisile Simelane, who's another very good player to mention in terms of young players. There's some very exciting talent. So as a Lions fan, I'm really excited to see what Lombard can do. He's always looked so good when he comes on, and hopefully he kicks on. Then for the Stormers, it has to be Juarno Augustus, and he is just... He's a freak of nature. Last time they updated, he was 1.87 meters tall. So he's about sitting at around 6'2", and he's 116 kgs. We talk about Dwayne Vermeulen replacement. Well, there he is. That is the Dwayne Vermeulen replacement. He is a giant of a player, and look, he's not gonna hit a gap with speed and dart around a few players, but he's a bulldozer. He is such a big player, and the type of loose forward which allows lots of players to play around him. If he does the dirty job and becomes that sort of almost like an auxiliary lock in the open play, and that he's just very big, very tough on defense. And then he allows his loose forwards to play around him. When you think of like how something like a Warwick Tecklenburg used to be such a hard worker for the Lions, which allowed Jaco Kriel to, be a bit more into the open play. And I think Juarno Augustus is a similar player where he's so big that he's just an immense ball carrier. So I'm really hoping he steps up, because I think he is the natural progression for the next eighth man. When you look at the best number 8s in the country, at 22 years old, 23 in December, he is probably the next big thing at number 8. And you know, South Africa's always had good 8th men. You think of PSP, you think of Dwayne Vermeulen, you know, powerful 8th men. And yeah, I mean, he's a giant. So I think he'll be very similar. And he's definitely on the radar. You know, he played in the showdown, so he's definitely a buck in waiting. You know, not even necessarily somebody who's on the sort of radar. You know, it is a matter of time as to when he will play for the Springboks, not if at this stage. And if he continues playing as well as he does, and I'm sure that we will see. But yeah, Stormers have got every right to be very excited by a very physical and very large specimen. Then for the Bulls, we've got Ulrich Loh, who's actually made his way up from the Kings. Also, a giant of a man, 1.95 meters, stands at, you know, well sort of 6 feet and 112 kgs. Huge chap, 21 years old, 22 in September. And look, the Bulls have always had really big, he can play as a lock or as a flank. And Bulls have always been known as having, you know, big loose forwards and big locks and a big pack. Well, guess what? It doesn't get much bigger than Ulrich Loh. And he played for Southern Kings in the Pro 14, so he's already got some of that experience. He's played in the competition before, so he knows what it's about. And again, I think South Africa is very lucky in that we've got some very, very good depth at lock. But, you know, as players stocking on in years, 21 years old, he's got a long time. I definitely think he'll be one to watch. You know, you think of Etzebeth getting on a bit in years, Lil Diallo getting on a bit in years, Franco Mostert, you know, they might be. We will need a succession plan eventually, and Ulrich Loh, if he can step it up at the Bulls, could definitely be a big one to watch. And you know, with Jake White, he's got a lot of pressure to get a lot of these youngsters right because he has let some talented players go, the likes of Ronnie Liebach, the likes of Warwick Gelant, and he's brought in quite a lot of experienced players. You know, when you think of you know, Gio Aplon. And he's brought a lot of experience, and a lot of players are worried. A lot of people, fans, are worried that not enough youth is going to come through at the Bulls. But Ulrich Loh is a proper talent, and yeah, if he, as I said, he's such a big chap. If he can get going, he's exactly what you need from a big physical lock or, you know, a very physical flanker. And somebody, you know, we've seen how Peter Steph Toy made the transition from flank to flank. Sorry, to lock to flank, not flank to flank. And eventually how he did it quite well, you know, and he's similar sort of mold, you know. You got to get a hard worker, you know, somebody that really puts their line on defense, and he can make the transition. So he can either make a really useful lock or a really, really big flank, which is great. And then for Cheetahs, it's another loose forward, and it's South Africa. I mean, we're South Africa. What do we produce? Loose forwards. I mean, we just kind of print them out, literally 3D print, and we just print out loose forwards in all shapes and sizes, and all very talented. So for junior, for the Cheetahs, I picked out Junior Pokamela. Another big player, you know, 1.9, over 100 kgs, a nice big player. And this Currie Cup and Super Rugby is a very nice opportunity for the Cheetahs players to find some more exposure. Since they moved up north, you know, not a lot of fans have paid that much attention. And I think we recognize that when a lot of players are called into the Springbok Showdown, rightly so, from the Cheetahs. And not a lot of fans knew what they were all about. And I think this sort of next few weeks will give lots of fans a chance to see some very talented Cheetahs players. And Pokamela is one of them. And again, a very large player, likes to have the ball in his hand, very physical. And we're just so blessed with loose forwards, as we always have been. South Africa just, as I said, we've got so many loose forwards, but he's just another one on the line. I mean, we could already sort of see, you know, Juarno, Augustus, Junior Pokamela. You know, add another flank in there, and we're sorted. Ulrich Loh could be at lock, and that's a massive pack, you know. And so, yeah, these are just the players who I think are really worth watching, and players that I really enjoy watching. Obviously, there are so many good youngsters to keep your eye on. But let me know in the comments, you know, who do you think is another, who else are some big players you think are really worth watching, that you've got your eye on, that you think are going to make the step up, that are going to be future Springboks. Let me know if you think any of these players could be pushing that right now, or whether you think that they've reached their limit. As always, please also don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. Hit the subscribe button. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss a moment. We really do want to try and build the channel, so your support will be really, really appreciated. I hope everyone is ready for a big weekend of sport. I can't wait to watch it all. Reactions, the Bulls and the Cheetahs squad preview still coming tomorrow, as well as obviously reaction of the action of the weekend. Come on the Lions tonight. Hopefully can do a job against the Sharks. The Stormers have a bye. Cheetahs, Bulls, Pumas, and Griquas all in action tomorrow. So make sure you go and check it all out. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen Pettit, and I'll chat to you soon.